This is part 2. In the description, you'll find the link to part 1 and the table of contents for this section. And back to the PASM modes, both have the same dynamic range settings. On the X-T200, the DR200 setting requires a minimum ISO of 400, DR400 needs a minimum of 800. On the X-T30, DR200 requires ISO 320, 400 needs 640. And the X-T30 has an alternate, the D-range priority, which disables dynamic range, highlight, and shadow tone settings. It has 3 levels, and I find this provides better results than the DR settings. For white balance, the X-T200 has only 1 custom setting, the X-T30 has 3. Otherwise, the same selection of presets and Kelvin settings. The X-T200's highlight tone has 2 steps up and down. The X-T30 has 4 up. Shadow tone is the same. On the X-T30, color has 4 up and down. Sharpness also 4 up and down, as well as noise reduction. Only the X-T30 has a lens modulation optimizer, pixel mapping, and the ability to create, edit, and select custom settings. On the X-T200, focus mode is a menu selection, and on the X-T30, it's the front switch. The X-T30 has settings to manage continuous autofocus, 5 presets, and configurable. And the X-T30 can save different focus modes for portrait and landscape shooting, and focus point display for zone and tracking modes. The X-T200 provides the standard expanded view and peaking for manual focus assists. The X-T30 includes a 4th peaking color, yellow. The X-T30 also includes digital split image in color and mono, and a digital microprism view. When the X-T30's back button is AF on, it can be configured as single or continuous. The X-T200's back button does not have an AF on option. The X-T30 has a setting to manage the depth of field scale. And let's have a look at focus performance. The X-T200 at the center and at the edge. The X-T30 in the center and at the edge. Face Detect on the X-T200 finds an and identifies an eye, and on the X-T30, somehow face detection is a little flakier. In continuous mode, both can find and then track objects. These are the X-T30's multi-purpose settings, and as the train changes direction, the X-T200 seems less capable. Both cameras have shutter control settings and support mechanical and electronic, as well as a hybrid mode. On the X-T200, press the drive key to open the drive menu. There are 2 burst modes, 4 and 8 frames per second. On the X-T30, turn the drive dial to select. The settings are configured in the menu. Continuous low can be set from 3 to 5 frames. Continuous high is 8 frames. The X-T200 delivers 8 frames for 4 seconds, then slows to 4 per second. On the X-T30, the 8 frame per second rate is maintained for 30 seconds before slowing to 5 per. When the X-T30 is switched to the electronic shutter, additional burst modes are available, 10 and 20 using the entire sensor, then 20 and 30 with a 1.25 crop. The X-T30 Sports Finder mode, shouldn't this be dimmed out when it's not available? Works only with mechanical shutter. Sports Finder also takes a 1.25 crop, that's the white rectangle. The size setting upper right reverts to M. The advantage here is that you can see the action just outside the frame. Pre-shot, which again should be dimmed out, works only with the electronic shutter. It starts buffering images when you soft press the shutter and then saves about 10 images from before the instant you fully press the shutter. Both support brackets for exposure, ISO, film sim, and white balance. On the X-T200, settings are managed on the drive selection screen with options for exposure and film sim in the menu. On the X-T30, 2 bracket options can be assigned to the drive dial positions. All the settings are configured in the menu. The X-T200 also has brackets for dynamic range and HDR. The X-T30 can create a focus stack using the focus bracket setting. Both have 2 and 10-second self-timers activated from the menu. They can be assigned to a custom key for easier access. Here, the X-T200 has some additional features, which take photos when faces or smiles are detected and when specific groupings of people appear in the frame. All are very useful for variations on the selfie. Both have interval timers. On the X-T200, the max is 999. The X-T30 is limited only by card space. The X-T200 has a setting to create a time-lapse video. The X-T30 has a flicker reduction setting only for manual shutter. Touch zoom on the X-T200 enables a digital zoom feature set using touch. Flash settings on the X-T200 are basic. The mode can be set. Compensation can be 2 steps up and down. Red eye removal can be activated. The X-T30 has a more complete selection of settings to manage external flashes. Both have movie modes up to 4K from 24 to 30 frames, including drop frame variants, HD from 24 to 60. The X-T30 supports both 16:9 video and 17:9 cinema resolutions, with a more sophisticated selection screen that includes selecting the data rate, which maxes to 200 megabits, double that on the X-T200. X-T200 also includes the lower resolution 1280 by 720 format, as well as square formats in 1080 and 720. The X-T200 also has an HDR movie mode with HD settings. The X-T30's menu has independent settings for video: film simulation, black and white color tone, white balance, dynamic range, highlight and shadow tone, color, sharpness, noise reduction, and interframe noise reduction. The last 2 are not available on the X-T200, where the same settings apply to both video and stills. On the X-T30, all of the video settings identified with the movie camera icon are independent of stills. The X-T200 sets movie focus on the menu. It's the front switch on the X-T30. The X-T30 has custom continuous autofocus adjustments, both for the sensitivity to changes in the scene and how quickly the focus racks. They are both small cameras and overheat quickly. At 4K, the X-T200 has a very low tolerance. The overheating icon appears in less than 10 minutes. At low temperatures, it's not much better. This makes the 15-minute time limit somewhat wishful thinking. The X-T30, even recording 4K at 200 megabits, double the X-T200's, gets through the first 10-minute segment without the icon appearing. Even so, less than 15 minutes total recording time. Both use the H.264 codec. They're saved as MP4 on the X-T200, MOV on the X-T30. Both limit videos to 4 GB chunks, even on SDXC cards. The X-T200's maximum video ISO is 6400, and even with an aperture of f2.8, that's just not quite enough for the light of a single candle. Now, I was able to capture a custom white balance even at this very low light level, and the colors look to be accurate. For a quality comparison, here's the X-T30 at ISO 6400. I've also captured a custom white balance here, so they may not be exactly identical. The X-T30 can go to 12,800, which is its maximum normal video setting. At this point, the extra stop gives you the kind of image that you would like to have by the light of a single candle. The X-T30 also has a high ISO setting equivalent to 25,600. At this point, the darkest areas have become somewhat noisy and grainy, and there's also a slight blue cast. The X-T200 has 2 stabilization modes, the digital image stabilizer and the more advanced digital gimbal, which overrides it and switches from 4K to HD. There's a yellow warning to remind you. The X-T30 has no digital stabilization. The X-T200's countdown video feature can limit recording to 15, 30, or 60 seconds. F-Log is available on the X-T30, not on the X-T200. The X-T30 has a video-specific peripheral light correction setting, and the X-T200 has an independent and limited video ISO. On the X-T30, more video-specific custom settings for continuous focus, face detect, focus assist, and focus check. The X-T200 can record 4K on either the SD or an external device. The X-T30 provides simultaneous and split 4K HD options, and a similar HD option, as well as control of the HDMI quality in standby. The X-T30 provides zebras for setting exposure, as well as a selection of timecode settings, and tally light options front and back, as well as the very useful movie silent control, which not only overrides all physical controls with on-screen touch equivalents, but also makes aperture, shutter, and ISO independent between video and stills modes. In user settings, the X-T30 supports one language not found on the X-T200. The My Menu selections reflect each camera's specific settings. Neither includes most of the setup screen options. The three shutter sound options differ slightly. These are the X-T200's. These are the X-T30's. The X-T30 has color adjustments for the viewfinder and the LCD, and can use T-stops for aperture when a cinema lens is used. The default screen options are not the same between the two, and the X-T30's display options additionally include a live view highlight alert, touchscreen mode, boost mode, guidance messages, and a framing outline. The X-T30 also has display options for high and low contrast, as well as a dark setting. The X-T200 has one additional joystick option, which zooms into the focus point. Like display options, the quick menu options reflect each camera's specific features. The X-T200 has two assignable function keys. The X-T30 has one, but the exposure and focus lock keys can also be customized, as can pressing the rear dial. The X-T200's function dial can be turned off. The X-T30's front dial, the command dial, can be customized. On the X-T30, the shutter interlock with focus can be disabled with single and continuous options. There are similar options for exposure. Both can shoot without a lens, useful for manual lenses the camera can't identify, and the X-T30 can shoot without a card. The X-T30's focus ring can be set to operate in a linear mode, useful for manual focus, and exposure, focus, and white balance locks can be set for toggle or press-only operation. Aperture operation can be customized to work with the command dial, and when a lens without an aperture ring is used, aperture operation can be locked to auto, manual, or both. The X-T200 has touch options for menu operation and selfie mode playback. On the X-T30, a setting disables the touch swipe functions. The X-T30 has more auto power off options. The X-T200's high performance promises faster startup and frame rate. The X-T30's boost mode speeds autofocus and increases the viewfinder frame rate. The X-T200 supports a date stamp function. The X-T30 can create folders and select a specific folder to save images. The copyright settings can save author and copyright information with the image. On both, this is a touch screen, which makes text entry much simpler. In Bluetooth settings, the X-T200 adds seamless transfer. When on, images are continuously transferred. The X-T200's USB mode includes a webcam option. On the X-T30, USB includes support for connecting a gimbal for video shooting. In playback, the X-T200 has a movie trimming feature. The X-T30 can save voice memos with images. And the X-T30's RAW conversion includes some of its unique image quality settings. Both work with Fujifilm's Camera Remote app, which supports both iOS and Android devices. I've done a detailed look at that. You'll find the link in the description. There is no easy way to parse this. They are both pretty good cameras for stills. The X-T30's physical controls give it the edge for advanced and manual shooters, and its film simulation selection is deeper. The X-T200, with a forward-facing screen and a 30-minute HD time limit, seems better suited to video, particularly vlogging, and it has the standard mic port. But the X-T30 has Cinema 17:9 4K resolution and a data rate of 200 megabits, even though it's limited to 10 minutes. And both overheat quickly, so it's really hard to recommend either for video. Now, there are a lot of factors involved in choosing your next camera. Please don't buy a camera just because it's new and shiny. Take the time to learn your current camera first and understand what its shortcomings are, so that you can understand the features that are important to you and make a good assessment about how your next camera can improve your photography practice. Now, also, take the time to hold and operate the camera, making sure the controls that you use most often are positioned appropriately. For example, for quick action street shooting, you may prefer to have the X-T30's power switch. Now, hopefully, I've identified all of the issues you'll want to consider. Now, it's up to you. And regardless of your camera, even if it's a phone, you can improve your skills with practice. Go out, fill your memory cards, and empty your batteries. If you do have questions or comments, one of the pleasures of my work is interacting with you. So please post your relevant questions and civil comments below. If you've subscribed already, thanks. Your interest and support is appreciated. And if you're just subscribing today, welcome. And thanks for watching.